You guys can go and grab the links in the chat to the workbook, the calculator, and the slides. And I'm pretty sure I shared everything right. I was dead tired when I did it. So if you have a problem getting them open, just let me know. They're in my Google Drive. And the workbook should open in Google Docs. The calculator should open in Google Sheets, and the slides are just going to be a PDF. If you guys showed up for the pricing and budgeting session and during the challenge last month, this is very similar. It does have a new twist to it because nothing's ever perfect. And, you know, you go back and you look at something in hindsight and say, well, geez, I should have done this. But I didn't. So anyway, I'm Nancy, just for those of you who don't know me, and I'm going to share my screen here and pop this up. Here we go. And I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way. Okay. So today we're going to talk about how to figure out how much money you need to make in order to pay yourself. Now, one of the big dilemmas that handmade business owners have, well, actually any business owner, is figuring out when in the heck they can pay themselves. And sorry, there we go. My mouse is jumpy today. You know, and at one point or another, everybody's going to sit back and say, hey, you know, I started my handmade creative or craft business to make money, you know, like all of a sudden it dawns on you. And it's like, so the next question is, so when do I finally get to pay myself? And for us as handmade business owners, you know, that's kind of a tough thing to answer. So I just want y'all to know, my mission is to empower handmade creative and craft business owners to understand their bookkeeping and their finances so that they know that they're making the money they deserve. Okay, kind of easier said than done. So just a little bit about me while everybody's joining in. I'm a maker, mostly amigurumi. I knit and crochet. I'm a career bookkeeper, so I've been doing this for well over 30 years. So that means, yeah, I'm pretty darn good at entering all them day-to-day transactions. I know how to categorize things so they hit your tax returns properly. But the big thing to keep in mind, I'm not your bookkeeper. Okay, so sometimes it's really hard for me to say, oh yeah, this is how you should do it, because I don't know what your backbone structure of your bookkeeping system is. So usually I will start out with this is how I would do it. Okay. I'm also not a CPA. I could have been if I had wanted to be, but honestly, I don't like doing tax returns. Okay. I would rather do the day-to-day bookkeeping. So does everybody have their handouts? So you can go grab them and open them up. Okay, so if you find the chat, way up at the very first link, and I'll put them in here again, are the handouts. And we might have an explosion here because, oh, yep, I gotta let the puppy out, sorry. Boy, I would love to have a clone. So in the chat, kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. You know, where you're from, if you're a maker or a designer, or both a maker and a designer, or if you do something else. and how long you've been in business. That way everybody kind of gets to know everybody else. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So we're going to jump into today. And if you want to answer these questions in the chat, you're more than welcome to. But really, I just want you to answer them for yourself. And all of these questions are in that workbook. And really, it's kind of identifying our money mindset. So my first question is, did you start your business to make money? Now, I'm sure everybody is going to say, well, of course I did. Don't be silly, Nancy. But some of us are really going to be like taken aback by that question, and we might be frozen. So if you get frozen, the next question is, if making money wasn't your goal, what was? You know, did you just want to fund your yarn addiction? You know, did you think it was a good idea? You know, we want to start thinking about how we look at money. You know, was it your goal to contribute money to the family finances? Okay. Or again, to fund your good old yarn addiction. Are you paying yourself and contributing to the family finances? You know, I mean, if that was your goal, are you actually at that point yet? Because some of these, I mean, we all have things in our head that are going to stop us, okay? And they paralyze us. Now, if you aren't paying yourself and contributing to the family finances, and you've been in business for, you know, a year or two, then why aren't you? You know, I mean, what's that roadblock that you've encountered? Okay. And the last question is, do you constantly find yourself taking money out of the family budget to pay for things in your business? So I'm going to take a quick look at the chat here and see what's going on. Oh, Karen, 24 years, 8 months. What a milestone. I bet you're paying yourself, or at least I hope the heck you are. So, you know, I'll get you here. You've had a few minutes to kind of look at those questions in the workbook. Just click into that block underneath the question and just type a couple of words, that the first few things that come to mind. While, you know, these are, when you go back and review this stuff after this session, these are going to be the things that you want to focus on, you know, because they're going to open all of those doors to that whole money mindset issue. And you can turn those things around. So have you ever set an income goal for your business so that you can actually sit and pay yourself? Now, what I mean by that is where you sit down and say to yourself, I need my business to pay me X, some specific amount of money each month or each year. Okay. And really, when you set a goal, it has to be specific. Okay. So it has to be measurable. It has to be something that you can actually attain. It has to be relevant to you, and it has to be time bound. So that's where this whole little thing comes into play. I need my business to pay me a specific amount of money each month or each year. Have any of you done that? And I'm going to go back and look at the chat here. Every business Every business owner has to have an income goal of how much they are going to pay themselves for all the time, the blood, sweat, tears, aggravation, the hours on Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook promoting your business. And no, it's not magic, AJ. I wish to God it was. When we first started our software business, almost 23 years ago, my husband and I, we started on a shoestring. Okay. We started a software business with each of us investing $200. That was it. The first year, we said, we're not going to take a paycheck because we're in startup mode. Okay. Anything that the business brings in is going to go for business expenses. That first year, we did not invest any more than that initial $400. And actually, by September of that year, the business was actually pulling in enough money that we said, okay, we need health insurance. We're not going to take a paycheck, but our business is going to pay our health insurance instead. And then when we started year 2, we actually sat down and said, we are going to pay ourselves X amount of dollars each month. Okay. And it is all about setting goals. Now, I do want to say there's different kinds of goal setting. Okay. There's an income goal and there's a sales goal. And I've heard a lot of the handmade business coaches talking about setting a sales goal that says, I want to sell X amount of dollars this year. Okay, so that's all fine and good, but let me explain the difference between an income goal and a sales goal. An income goal starts with how much you want or need to pay yourself. It looks at how many hours every week you have available to work. So, and by work, I mean either make your finished product or write your designs, okay? Not spending time on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or taking courses. Okay, that's all kind of extraneous additional stuff. How many actual hours you have every week to sit down and work. An income goal also includes or takes into consideration how much money you're spending in your business. It includes taxes. It includes having profit or money to reinvest. And then you take all of this information and you figure out how much you then need to sell in order to accomplish this. Now, a sales goal only takes one thing into consideration, and that's how much you want to sell in a year. And then out of that sales goal, then you have to take all the other things into consideration. And that really kind of, it sucks, okay? When you're stuck with taking all of the expenses and the taxes and the money to reinvest out and money to pay yourself out of that sales goal, well, 10 to 1, you're not going to end up with any money left to pay yourself. And it's just this whole big vicious cycle. And it really stinks. So if you're ready to take the next step and ready to figure out how much you need to make or sell in this case in order to pay yourself, we're going to just jump right in to the spreadsheet. calculator. Now, I am going to tell you, the calculator is not perfect, okay? Because there's so many other things that go on in each of our own lives and each of our own business that nothing can ever be 100% accurate. But this gives you like a framework or something that you can build up to as a goal. So if you open that sweet little calculator, and this is going to do all the math for you, okay? So you don't have to do a lot of math. So let's start out with, as a goal, what would you like to pay yourself on a monthly basis? Okay. Do you want to pay yourself $100 a month? Do you want to pay yourself $200 a month? 500, 1,000? I'm just going to plop in 500 in here in that first little pink box. It automatically says, okay, if I want $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. Cool. Okay. So here's our first step in that goal. If I want to pay myself $500 a month, that equals out to $6,000 a year. Now, if I have $6,000 a year that I pay myself, I could very well have $1,800 in taxes, okay, that I might have to pay at the end of the year. So that means in order to pay myself that $500 a month and cover the taxes, I need to sell $7,800 worth of product, courses, patterns a year, or $650 a month. Okay. Now, again, this is not perfect, but this gives you that correlation. If I want $500 a month, really, I have to sell $650 a month worth of merchandise. Okay. So that's that first little piece of the puzzle. And don't worry, I mean, 10 to 1, this is not going to happen the first year. It may not even happen the second year. All right. And you know what? That's okay, because it's a goal. Ultimately, this is what I want to do. So the next thing we have to kind of take into consideration is how many hours a week do we have available to make product, design patterns. None of that, not doing your bookkeeping, that's not included. Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, taking courses, showing up here. While it's beneficial, you're not literally working. So let's say you have 20 hours a week. So that means you've got 1,040 hours throughout the year. Not bad. Okay. So that kind of means that you have a fair hourly wage of $5.77 per hour. Okay. So when you look at this, you know, if you're going to pay yourself $5.77 per hour, which is literally well below minimum wage, even in the most cheap of states, okay, but at least it's something. So now we want to start looking at our expenses. Now, if you've got your 2022 bookkeeping all done, you can come back and you can fill in these numbers here. Now, we're not taking cost of goods sold into that, because that's already money that's been spent, okay? essentially, and it is going to come right off your taxes. But think about the things that you pay money for every month or once a year. Okay. So if you have $100 a year in website hosting and $15 a year for a domain name fee, and you have a business fee or re-registration of $35 a year, start adding these things up. Okay. Memberships. I belong to Crochetpreneur Academy, so I think that's like $290 a year. Advertising, craft fair booths, and give yourself a budget for yarn and supplies. Okay, because you are going to have to spend that money. And you can add extra lines in here. It's super easy. Just click on the row for 18, then right click and hit copy, and then come down to 19, hit right click and hit insert copied cells. And that way you get those formulas, and it will add this all up. And let's just say I'm going to put in, I think I had $1,500 worth of other expenses last year. Whoops. And I just did break my own formula. So I'm going to change this to G19. Okay. So now I got close to $2,000 worth of expenses. All right. So look how this has changed. Okay. So here I have my almost $2,000 in expenses. I still have my $6,000 in annual income. Okay. So I still have my $1,800 on taxes, because taxes are only calculated on what you want for desired income plus any profit. All right. So profit. How much money do you want to set aside to reinvest in your business? Okay. So that you're not having to rob money out of the family budget. Okay. At some point, we need to stop that. All right. Because for some of us, you know, if we have a spouse who works, or like me, you know, I have another business. Okay. And as silly as it sounds, right at this particular point in my life, I do not rely on YarnyBookkeeper to pay me anything. Okay. In the next year or two, that's going to change. Okay. Which is why I am starting to focus more on YarnyBookkeeper, because in the next couple of years, we're going to sell the software business and I'm going to retire. Except I know me, I really am not ever going to be able to not work. All right. So I'm just going to shift all the focus that I put into the software business, and I'm going to take a lot of it and I'm going to focus it on YarnyBookkeeper. All right. So profit. Let's say you have a computer. Like I have the computer that I'm using right now. I bought it in 2019. It was a gamer machine because I'm blind in one eye. So I need a machine that has amazing graphics, because I spend way too many hours at a computer. So this was a $2,000 machine in 2019. And in the next year or so, I'm going to have to replace that. All right. So I want to make sure I start planning to replace that. I'm going to say I want $2,000 for 2023 set aside for a new computer in 2024. All right. So now, again, this all changes. So now we have our overhead per year of, close to $2,000. We have that $6,000 a year that we want to pay for ourselves. We want $2,000 in profits so that I can buy a new computer. So that means we've got a total of $9,940. All right. Now these are the expenses. All right. Plus we've got our taxes. That means in order to do all that, I have to sell $11,740 worth of stuff this year, okay? Or $978.33 a month. And that way I have the money to cover all this, okay? Now, if when you go through these overhead expenses, if you're appalled, and when you did your bookkeeping, you didn't really drill down into any of these numbers, go back and look at some of them and say, am I paying for stuff that I don't use, don't need, or, stuff that I bought? Maybe I signed up for a membership and I have to pay every year. But when the heck was the last time I actually logged into that membership portal and did anything with it? Okay. If this is year 2 of paying for that membership and you haven't logged in a year and a half, it's time to trim some of that. We have to be careful with what the heck we spend. All right. So now our annual overhead, if we divide it by the number of hours we have to work, that's $1.87 per hour in overhead. So now we come down to another little thing. All right. And there's 2 tabs on this worksheet. So the second tab is business use of home. If it was really our intent to contribute to the family finances, one way that we can do that is we can take the annual cost, and this is on that business use of home, of these items which are deductible, okay, and these things are considered to be part of business use of home, and we put these amounts in here. Now, Sarah, I know you're from Canada, so down here at the bottom, there is a way to come up with that business use of home credit. Now, most of us, if you're like me, I work all over my house. Okay, I have a big table and yarn storage upstairs. Even if you can't take a dedicated space deduction, you can still come up with an hourly value of these things and include it in your fair hourly wage so that you're kind of giving that money back to the household. Okay, so let's just say we had $1,000 a month in rent. Okay, and property taxes, ours are steep. Ours are $6,000 a year, and that's steep for here in Vermont. Our phone is like $42 a month. We have solar panels, so we really don't have electric, but we do have the connection charge. of $15 a month that they don't take off our solar credit. So you can pull these things in, okay? Now, this would give you an annual cost of $18,684, all right? So if you actually literally have a dedicated space, okay, you can come in and say, I have, say, let's see, 2,500 square feet total living area. I use 500 square feet for business. So that means you can take a deduction on your tax return for 20% of that. All right. So 20% of this 18,684 is 3,736.80. Same kind of deal if you're up in Canada. You know, Canada blew my mind. Hours per day you use the space. Okay. So if you worked 20 hours a week, let's say 4 hours a day, divide that by 24 hours in a day, and the math is all built in, and you do this 5 days a week, and still you have your 500 and 500. So now you would have a tentative credit, okay, of $444.86. But all of that boils down to, you could add $2.33 per hour into your fair hourly wage. So I'm going to pop that in there. So now that means in order to accomplish all of this, okay, your total fair hourly wage needs to be $13.63 per hour. Now, again, this is not perfect, folks. It's not a guaranteed, but look how we went from $577 per hour to make that $6,000 a year up to $13.63 in order to cover all of this. Okay. I mean, it makes it so that you can see how all of this stuff works together. And it's all about setting goals. You know, I mean, is this attainable? Well, it might be hard because you only want to pay yourself $500 a month, but you've got all of this overhead. Okay. So that means you're spending too much money. All right. And it's easy. Okay. I mean, we all get, you know, we all get shiny object syndrome, and people convince us that we absolutely need something. Okay. Whether it's a course or whether it's a piece of software or the latest and greatest bright, shiny object. And that's why it's really, really important to look at where the heck you're spending your money. So does this make sense? I tell you what, let me turn around, unmute everybody. Okay, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and we can talk about this. And hopefully the dog won't need to go out again, or the phone won't ring again, or whatever. But basically, it's just, you know, if you just had a sales goal of, say, $10,000 for this year, you could cover your overhead. All right. You could probably set aside taxes. You might be able to, and it's hard. It's hard to figure out how the heck we're going to sell all of that. And you know, and I do understand why everybody, all the handmade business coaches do preach, harp, talk so much about sell, 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 sell. I understand that. But if you're only thinking about sell, 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 you're never really taking into consideration of, I need to pay me. And I mean, it's hard whether you sell a finished product or whether you sell a pattern. And Karen might be a good one to come in. And Karen, can I put you in the hot seat and have you come in and talk about, you know, your own revenue goals, how much you want to pay yourself, and how you get out there and make those sales? And you can say no.
Well, I'm not going to give you my revenue goals because that's kind of a private thing, but
absolutely.
Yeah. But what I can tell you is after almost 25 years in the industry, you can't just sell. I know Sarah mentioned she is doing magazines, and it's hard to figure out what the flexible, because it waffles all over the place. This magazine might give you this, and this magazine might give you that. That's where I started. And my goal when I did that was, how many patterns am I going to sell this year to magazines? And based on that, I also knew ahead of time what their payment schedules look like. So if I did a garment, I would get this. So if I did a blanket, I would get this, and figure out what my niche was. So for me, I started with blankets and home decor, and I have now moved into selling my own patterns using fingering weight yarns, doing everything from accessories to garments to, I do a little bit of home decor. But what I can tell you is that in the fiber arts industry, you cannot make money just producing patterns and books. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have to diversify. And a lot of people these days do the influencer, or I don't know what else to call it, affiliate link stuff. And I don't agree with that, because I work too hard to get to where I am, and I'm not going to sell somebody else's product when I'm doing a product. So what I did was I diversified by teaching classes nationally. I've been teaching classes since 2024 or 2004, this would say, nationally. I write books and I self-publish those books. I teach Zoom classes. I just started a membership site. So I have, come up with different ways of increasing my income and creating so that every year I can step up how much money I'm making, if that makes sense. Somebody just posted about Patreon. I know a lot of people have started Patreons. Patreon is interesting because it's hit and miss with people. It depends on who you are and whether people are going to give you the money. I've heard that from a lot of designers, especially. So, and if with Patreon, not only are you going to have to do what you do, but you're also going to have to do extra for those people who are paying you. Does that make sense, Nancy?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
You've got to consider your time.
And you're right. There's no magic answer. And I do understand why everybody jumps on the Mediavine ad revenue or the AdSense ad revenue, or this one's ad revenue or this one's affiliate link. And it's because There has to be more than one way to bring money into your business without you burning the candle at both ends.
But one of the things you have to think about too, what I think about when I go to the ad revenues and all of that, is I have been in this industry long enough that I saw the FTC come in and stop all of that way back in the 90s when people were exploiting all of that all of that ad revenue and stuff like that. I mean, there was some really, I saw crochet businesses lose their business because they were exploiting all this stuff and they got nailed by the IRS and the FTC. So, yes. And somebody said about the YouTube thing too. Yes. So I've been there. So I'm very skeptical about these affiliate things. In fact, the only affiliates I do are Amazon and Craftsy, because I'm a Craftsy instructor. But other than that, I won't do them because I'm very skeptical. I watched people lose their entire livelihoods back in the 90s when out in the early 2000s when it all started. So, and the one thing I can tell you too is that I've been here long enough that when the pandemic hit, teaching live classes just shut down. That was my bread and butter. So I had to quickly pivot to Zoom. So that's why you need to have multiple streams of income, because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm happy to share my experiences. I've been a designer for so long that I've seen a lot. So,
and I think one of the things that I respect most about you is the fact that you don't jump on all of these damned bandwagons. I mean, being an affiliate for somebody is a lot of work.
Can be. It really can be. And I'm not going to promote something I've never used or that I don't like. I'm not going to give them a great review. I got a free light. I thought I'd try it. A free light. That thing broke in 2 months. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't give you a good review on this. So
not if it's
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So my followers trust me, trust what I tell them. So
right. And there's a big difference too. You're very established. You probably have a following of repeat customers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And that's very different from somebody who's only been in business for a year.
Exactly.
Or somebody like me who, I'm going to be honest, I do 1, maybe 2 craft fairs a year, only because I'm going to have to give up sleep totally in order to come up with inventory and take care of the software business and fiddle fart around with YarnyBookkeeper, even though it's not fiddle farting, it's just right now I'm slow, methodical, steady, and some weeks are really good and I can do all the things, and other weeks it's like I have nothing, I have nothing left to give.
Right.
So we're all in varying stages, but we all need to stop and think more than just sales goals, because what about all that other stuff?
Right. And there's also the values. Your values have to be built into your business. And whether that is your family, your faith, your friends, time to spend alone, to travel, whatever it is, you need to build that into your business too, even at the start. Because when I started, my kids were a month old and two, not quite two. So my value was I was a stay-at-home mom. And so I only worked when they were, were working or when they were sleeping. And as they grew, my business grew. I was able to do more and set goals to sell more patterns to magazines. And then when I decided to go completely indie with my patterns, I could set goals there. In fact, wrote my first self-published book when my daughter went to college because I didn't want to look at her empty room. So, and so you've got to build in what your values are as well.
Yeah. And for pattern designers, I almost think, and this is me on the other side of the fence, okay, I can mark up a finished item really well, okay, but and I can sell it for a much higher price, whereas when you design a pattern, you're kind of stuck in a certain bracket that you can you can charge before people say, oh, that's just insane. I would never pay that for a single pattern.
Right. And that's where you need to build trust with your customers too.
Exactly.
Because my patterns are on the higher end of crochet patterns. I mean, my minimum price is $7 for a pattern, and I've had patterns that are as much as $12.50. And that's because I pay for photography. I ship everything to Connecticut. I'm on the West Coast. I ship everything to Connecticut. I pay a tech editor who draws all my charts. I pay a graphic artist to lay out all my patterns. So my patterns, and I've tested my patterns, so they trust me. They know that my patterns are almost error-free. I mean, very rarely do I come up with an error on a pattern. And so they trust me. So they know that if they're going to spend $7 on a pattern, they know it's going to be pretty accurate. And if it's not accurate, I'm available to help them and figure out what's wrong and get it fixed. So you've got to build trust too. But the biggest thing is income streams. You've got to have more than one.
Exactly. And I see so many people just giving away patterns. And you might as well dig out your wallet and just start handing out money to those people. And I get it. If you're new and you're trying to get your foot in the door per se, you got to entice people to try your stuff. And what better way to do it than to give something away for free?
So are you putting in all these outfits?
Right. It's like I don't give away one pattern a year for free, and that's only for newsletter subscribers. And they get every January 1st, they get a brand new pattern. And then anybody who subscribes to my newsletter during the year will get that pattern. And then every January 1st, I design a new pattern for January 1st. But everything else is paid. So, yeah. And I do that freebie in exchange for getting their email address. So, and that's something too that I know a lot of marketers out there really think that newsletters are dying, but they're really not. That is the only thing that you can control. So, yeah. And I mean, I've been controlling mine for almost 25 years. So, that's where it's worth giving away a free pattern.
Yeah, and I understand the thought behind the blog hops, and I understand the thought behind giving away patterns. But at some point you have to say, in my opinion, you have to say enough is enough. I am not giving away the store. I'm not giving away everything, and it's just like with spending money, you say, do I really need this newest bright shiny object?
Yeah.
Or, do I need to give away an unlimited number of these patterns?
Right. Right.
The bright shiny object, is maybe yes, I do need it. Maybe no, I don't. The giving away the unlimited number of patterns, in my opinion, would be no. And back it out, say I will give away 5, or do some sort of sliding scale thing. Today it's free, tomorrow it's this much, the next day it's this much, and
I've done that too.
Here it goes to full price.
Right. I've done that too.
And just limit how much you're just giving away, because seriously, you might just as well dump your wallet.
Right. No, and in fact, I should mention this. If you offer your challenge that we did last month, again, everybody take it, because as somebody who was, who's been in business for almost 25 years, I realized how much I was spending just in software alone to do different things. And I can't tell you how much I've cut out of my budget just taking that challenge. I canceled a whole bunch of things that I don't use that often. And I figured out other tools that I am using that can do the same thing. So I'm not double paying for stuff. So that's something too, is, really, do you really need to put your membership site on something that's, $99 a month when you can get it for $29 a month? Can you buy a certain software? Like I use Presto Player for videos on my website, and I bought the lifetime deal on AppSumo, so that I will always get the updates, but I only had to pay $179 once. And that kind of thing. So look into AppSumo is a good way to cut your costs too.
Well, that's what I did with Heartbeat. Okay, big long brouhaha story, but I got totally banned from Facebook, which meant I lost access to all of the Facebook groups that I had started there. I've also lost access to 3 Facebook business pages. So here I am, I'm getting ready to do the challenge that I did last month. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to have a challenge. Where the hell am I going to host it? Okay. We have no control over Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest. Okay. And at first I found a plugin for WordPress that promised the world, that delivered absolutely nothing. And then I found Heartbeat on AppSumo, and I got the lifetime license. And yeah, it's a little clunky. It's still kind of new, but there's no ads. Oh my God, there's no ads.
Yeah. That's what that's what I put in the chat. Like, I ended up getting really annoyed at Adobe because I was using InDesign, which is part of my language, effing expensive. And I found Ribus, and it's open source. It's open source, free publishing software. And I was like, yes, please. Why am I paying for InDesign? Yes, please.
Exactly. That's why I use Google Docs a lot. I do you pay for Dropbox because some of my tech editors and my photographer use that, but that's built into my expenses. But
yeah,
if you can get something for free or in a lifetime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was so happy when I realized Stitch Mastery, which is the knitting charting software I use, And it's like,
Mhm.
your lifetime software. Oh, yay. I will happily pay $100 and then not have to deal with this.
Right, exactly, exactly. And I got to the point where I knew that I'm not a graphic artist. I hated having patterns that had hand-drawn charts because at the
the
time, there was no software out there that would do charts the way
Mhm.
I want to do the charts. So I started paying somebody for that, but my business grew into that. That was a goal I set, that I was going to have a professional person do my charts for me.
And sort of the same thing. I knew from day one, I am crap at photography. It is not a skill I have. It is not a skill I'm good at. It confuses me. So I knew from day one that I would have to pay somebody.
Exactly.
The thing is, I am paying somebody who is it by their own. They're not. It's their second job. They're a bit more of an amateur, but it's still, it works. It gets me it gets me what I need. So okay.
Exactly.
You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a professional photo shoot. This is somebody who has a photography background, but it's not their job. But they're like, you know what? Yeah, because I know you, I'll do this for you. Cool.
Well, and the gal I pay, she does what she calls community photo shoots. So it's several designers. And so
nice.
we all pay a certain amount for our actual photos. And then however many designers are in the community shoot, split the cost of the model.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and she's a professional photographer. She's the photographer for Barocco Yarns.
Oh, cool.
And so that's why I use her, because this is what she does for a living.
This
and
is
she
her
knows
job.
how. So,
Yeah.
But if you go to my Ravelry page and you go back, 12, 15 pages to when I started and I was doing my photography, you will all laugh because that's all I could do.
I mean, another thing for me, this is where you talk about values. I knew I wanted to be my own model because I'm visibly disabled and that's not something you see. So I knew that I wanted to be able to, it took me actually a bit of nerve to have my cane in the shots. But I knew it was a thing, and it made it easier because that means I could knit the samples to meet my size. So that made it easier on that front. But it also meant I knew that I wanted that in there. So again, I'm like, if I'm going to be my own model, let's do this.
These are all things that you set goals for,
Yeah.
to be able to pay those, and then pay yourself. And so my business at the very beginning, I was breaking even every year. And then I started setting goals. Okay, I want to contribute X number of dollars to my house. And it might have taken 4 or 5 years before I could get there, but I did.
It took me, I think, 2 years to start breaking even. And not all my patterns do. There are some patterns that have still not earned their editing cost back.
Yeah.
But broadly now I break even. It's just I would like to do more than break even. And so there are some months I do much more than break even because I got a royalty check or something. But there are some months of this is a month that's gonna suck now.
Well, and that's one of the things I do is that I break out every single pattern for every cost that I have. I have a spreadsheet that I put in, how much I spent for tech editing, how much I spent for photography, how much I spent for layout, yarn, all that stuff. Well, I pull it out because I use QuickBooks. But I put it into the spreadsheet. And then as the sales come in for each pattern, I add, okay, this is how much income. And I have very few patterns that are broken even. My bread and butter is teaching classes.
And mine is really the magazines right now, which is good, but yeah. I need to get, the only thing I do suck is I'm bad about remembering to update the spreadsheet full of pattern information. I'm still bad at that part.
Yeah. In fact, I have a blog post on my website that breaks down one of my patterns, that literally the cost of everything, including my time. So something to think about looking at too.
Yeah. Your time is money, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw from that little calculator, every hour you work, every hour of your time has value. And
Yes.
Barter, I mean, our ancestors did it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. So long as the problem is I find you try to barter you get a lot of like, oh, I'll pay you like $20 an equivalent for it, because people don't know the value of what you're making them. But I got, but on the flip side, I got a lot of video editing, and I borrowed a pair of hand knit mittens. I didn't have the money. I was still starting up. So I went, can I get you, I basically, somebody who did film school in university. I said, would you be willing to do, like, teach me the basics of video editing, but also just help with some filming and some setup? And I paid him in mittens.
Yeah.
And that's also,
I
if
did
you
that
don't
too.
immediately cash, you can do that. Just make sure it's actually an equitable trade, because I find a lot of people don't know how much this is actually worth. So you'll get values that are worth, less than the yarn. But if you've got somebody who's comfortable with that, yeah, there you go.
I mean, there's always more than one way to accomplish things. But figuring out those goals and looking at that big picture is really eye-opening. And I'm sure someday there's going to be a version 999 of this crazy little calculator.
Well, that's actually, I have to admit, like, I'd never broken it out in the way that calculator just did, which was like, I just don't know why it just never occurred to me to break it out this way. And I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Well,
That's different.
That's the bookkeeper brain in me.
Which I am not. I had one mandatory accounting class in high school and noped out of that as fast as I could. So
And see,
I admit it.
I love to crunch numbers. Numbers adding all up is as beautiful as doing this really intricate pattern and having the right amount of stitches of each damn color. I mean, it really is. And I love both. So that makes my brain really twisted. Okay. I mean, it really is, because it's like, I love the numbers. I love the color. I love the intricacy. And I love when everything adds up correctly. And that's why when I hear people, some of the coaches say, oh, I did really good at doing my books for the first 3 months this year, and then I just wrote down how much I had in sales for the rest of the year. Yeah, that doesn't cut it. I mean, sales is wonderful, but what the hell? How much money are you spending every month in between?
Also, like, that's not going to cut it for taxes either.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, we all either love, hate, or tolerate the numbers aspect of our business. And actually, I put the funniest little video up on Instagram featuring my dog Max, and it was just like, he was being so playful. It was like, and this is literally what we do every morning. We go out back and we take a walk.
Okay.
So he and I are out there, or he's out there on the trail. And when I'm out there, it's like, quite often I will like talk out loud as if I'm sitting here there doing a webinar. So he's toddling along, and I said, Max, have you done your bookkeeping today? And he was being so fresh, and I just happened to catch it. He turned around and he looked at me and he stuck his tongue out at me. So
That's just adorable.
If you can go catch it on Instagram, because it's freaking hysterical. At one point, it's like, Max, how come you didn't do your bookkeeping this week? And he stuffs his face and his head into the snowbank, like, I'm just burying my head in the snow until you shut up about bookkeeping, Mom.
I mean, I admit I'm not always the greatest about remembering to write everything down, but like, I am disorganized. I admit this. But at the very least, I have a box and it just sits on the table, and that is where all the random receipts and papers and stuff go. And so if I don't get organized, then at tax time, at least I know where it all is. And so then at least then, yes, it's kind of frantic. Yes, there's tears, but I know where it all is, and I can go through and I can, pull all the records from like my pay hip shop, and I can do it. I hate it. There will be swearing. There will be alcoholic beverages involved. But like at least it's there. And like what baffles me is when people are like, oh, I don't even keep my receipts. And I'm like, wait, what? No.
Okay, you want to
Like,
override the tourist
that-
site?
I'm gonna leave you guys to chat. My husband just got home and now the dog wants daddy.
Yeah.
You guys go ahead and chat. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Now, see, I have built into my business, every Friday from 10 to noon is my bookkeeping time.
Ah.
And so I have in my Gmail folder, I have a special folder that if I've bought any yarn or anything like that, all the receipts are in there, so
Yeah.
that on Friday, I can just go in and enter it all into QuickBooks. If I have any sales that week, I don't touch them until Friday. I put all the
Well, that's
sales
smart.
in. And that is my bookkeeping time. And so I'm very much like Nancy. I like numbers. I was a computer science major in college actually I switched to business, but I have a computer minor. So
I was a music
numbers
major.
are
It
big.
shows.
So,
yeah.
but that's something too. I mean, to get your bookkeeping done, after 25 years of my husband being just glaring at me, because things weren't done right, well, I wasn't 25 years, it was probably closer to 20, because it's about the last 5 years that I've been really consistent every Friday for 2 hours. That's what I do. And if I finish early, that gives me time for something else. But I schedule 2 hours every single Friday to do my bookkeeping, and I don't have stacks of paper. I keep everything digitally. If I actually get a physical receipt, I scan it and I stick it in a folder for taxes. And
The problem is CRA, if they ever decide to audit me, they won't accept scanned copies of receipts. So I have to keep the originals.
okay, here we don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
that's one of the, if they have to decide, like, go through all my receipts, if I have the physicals, I have to bring them in. Which is gonna be hilarious because some of them are like so faded because they're like from a random festival where I bought yarn, and I'm like, you don't even know what I've written like a note on the back saying like this is like this yarn, but it's just labeled like item. So I'm like, oh, good luck making sense of this, but that's not my problem.
If
But-
you scan it, then print it out.
They won't take it.
They
CRA
won't?
demands the originals if you have originals. Yeah.
Can you take a photocopy of it when you first get it and keep it on your computer so that if
See,
they
that's
can't,
not a bad idea.
and so
But
if
it's
they
still to
can't
keep
read
the
it, say,
original.
this is what it looked like when I got it.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Yeah.
honestly, that's not my problem anyway. Really, like, hi.
Yeah.
I have the paper.
Yeah.
But then what I do for anything digital is I have just literally a label in my Gmail account that says like 2022 receipts, and so everything gets just dropped in there, and that even includes like the little automated Etsy emails of like you sold a pattern. All that just gets dropped in there, so that when I'm doing the taxes, it's like click on that label, just go through it. So even though I tend to defer doing my bookkeeping until frantically before tax season, I know where everything is.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, and like, that's just because it's me, and I am disorganized, and I know this, so this is my backup for my disorganization.
Well, at least you have a backup plan.
yeah,
I mean,
like that is the
a lot of
backup plan.
people don't even have that.
Yes.
And so that's the thing. It's like, okay, like I know I'm disorganized. I know that I will suck at this. I know that the odds of me doing my bookkeeping once a week on Fridays are like not gonna happen. So I have just a spot to dump all the papers. I have the tags in my Gmail, and that means that if I'm doing them the night before tax deadline, at least I know where everything is. Oh, there will still be swearing and adult beverages, but it's there. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna need to wrap
Yes.
up. Anybody else want to hop in here and say anything before we close up shop?
I
This
just
is
want to say
giving me a
thanks
lot
for
to
this.
think of. Yeah, this is giving me a lot to think about, and I finally have a reason for making a budget.
Which is, it's such a
A
different
budget's
perspective.
really, a budget's really important. And really, that little calculator is like a mini budget. Without getting totally overwhelming and overpowering.
It was
That's
just-
definitely what I noticed. Yeah.
yeah, it was just basically a different way of viewing it that I had, because I don't think this way. So this was really helpful.
Good, good.
So thank you.
Well,
I'm gonna have
thanks
to
for
wander off
joining
too.
me, everybody. And, Karen, you mentioned the challenge. I actually, you can buy that as a course.
Okay, yeah, it's good to know.
Last month we did what was it, a 6-day? It was a 6-day challenge. And each day we focused just on one aspect of the whole big picture. And then at the end, we kind of tied everything together, so that it was, I mean, because, inventory and cost of goods sold are so overwhelming. Expenses, figuring out where to put them in the right categories, it can make you freeze, because everybody thinks that, the IRS and even the Canadian tax return gives you a certain number of categories, and then it says other. And I know, working with people who don't have that bookkeeping mentality, they see other and they freeze. And it's like, what's that? What does that mean? And we did a whole bunch with that. There's several things up on my website, several courses that I'm doing through ThriveCart. And again, it's like ThriveCart was a one-time payment. Heartbeat was a one-time payment. Of course, it came at a time where I didn't really need to spend the money, but I needed somewhere, and yeah, I mean, Heartbeat is not a bad platform. Every week they're doing bug fixes and tweaks, because the developers actually have their own community here on the Heartbeat platform. And, it's like you get that Monday recap and it's like, holy crap, So, all right, folks, have a lovely rest of your week. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Seriously, if you want to giggle, go look at my video on Instagram with Max, because it really is cute. All right, folks, thank you much. Have a lovely day.